The Oncoming Storm, Chapter 2, Inferno. Running late thanks to a hangover. I made my way to the briefing room. Luckily the briefing was running late too, and had not started yet. When I entered the room from the rear, I saw Dash with an empty seat next to her. I took off into the air and made my way over to the empty seat. Hey Dash, sorry I'm late, I said as I sat in the chair. No problem. It's Jack Hammer you have to apologise to. Why? I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around to see Jack Hammer not looking pleased. Why did you have to turn up? I had a bet with Poppy that you wouldn't arrive on time, he said with laughter in his voice. Well, couldn't let you have all the fun now, could I? I replied. I felt a nudge from Dashy. I looked to the centre of the room where the hologram of the world was projected on from the floor. General Skyswim entered through one of the doors on the left, followed by more chiefs of staff. We had to stand and wait to be told to sit by the general. Now, gentle colts and fillies, said the general, looking at Dash as he said filly. It was only up until now that I realised Dashy was the only mare in the Royal Guard, and the smallest. Operation Phoenix is the invasion of Russia to our northeast. The Army, Navy and Air Force will be playing a part in this operation, but all of you have an important role in this. The globe increased in size to reveal more detail on the surface of the Earth. One landmass was highlighted in red pixels. Russia, the nation covered the North Pole and the north of the world. It was a large country, mostly covered in snow. The inhabitants were all Earth ponies. Why does Celestia want to invade this country? There's just no point, I thought to myself. In this operation, we are trying a new tactic. As you know, the armed forces are made up of volunteers and conscripts, with hardly any battle experience. That is why you will all be each assigned a flight of newcomers. You will be their leader and their instructor. Also having an ace pilot in their squad will be beneficial to their morale. Skyswim took a sip of water from the glass on the table. Your mission in Operation Phoenix is to provide an escort to your flight. Their job is to take out hostile artillery units that you will encounter inland of the evasion beaches. Intel says that most of their artillery will be stationed within the coastal town of Stalingrad. The success of your mission will ensure the success of the invasion. Your call signs will be assigned to you when you are preparing for takeoff. We leave at 1800 hours. Remember, the first order must not be broken. You are dismissed. The rest of the day was spent cleaning my equipment and getting prepared for the operation. The first order, as it was known, was set by the creator of this world to ensure peace between all ponies. For if the order was to be broken, the world as we knew it would be engulfed in fire forever. Or as the story goes. The one rule that we must all abide by is no pony's life shall be taken by another. In war, that is easy to break, but where there's a will, there's a way. We use the unicorn's magic as our weapons, stunning and sleeping spells to ensure on fatalities. It is new technology that only the unicorn's elite soldiers, artillery, tanks and aircraft weapons have access to. The Earth ponies within the army still had to fight with swords and shields. Enchanted swords were used as not to cause injury. All pilots were issued with a blaster that can fire stun spells if they were to get shot down and were trapped behind enemy lines. I put my flight suit on that was hanging in my room behind the door. The white and golden flight suit in a bit of extravagant, but it did go with my white mane. Not really good camouflage if you're shot down and hiding from enemy patrols, but the top brass think it's an incentive not to get shot down. I locked my room door, put my flight helmet under my right wing, and made my way to the airfield. The golden nose of Dash's F-18D was sticking out of the hangar doors. As I walked in, I could hear a wolf whistle from the cockpit on the F-18. Very fetching! I looked up to see Dash sat in the cockpit, the canopy open with her flight helmet on and ready to go. Thanks, Dashy. I passed a slogan that she had printed on the nose of the aircraft, high speed, in bold red letters. Then I passed Jack Hammer's plane, the pin-up of the Spitfire, the leader of the Wonderbolt's aerobatics flight team, on the nose of his F-16C, winking at me as I walked past. My aircraft was third in the queue. I gave the F-16 a visual check, making sure the missiles were secured properly, and there was nothing out of place. I brushed my hoof over my nose art, low drag in red bold letters. That was mine and Dash's slogan. We came up with that when we passed flight school. So much had changed. With the checks over, I put on my flight helmet, flew up into the cockpit and strapped myself in. Tower, this is Whirlwind, checking in over. Roger, Whirlwind. Your squadron's call sign is Wildcat. You are Wildcat 3, and the flight you are leading is called Ruby Break. You are to link up with Ruby 1-1 above Ponyville and fly towards the objective Alpha over. Understood, Tower. Out. Dash's plan screeched into life. The roar of the engines was deafening, so I had to close the cockpit roof, which drowned out most of the noise. We began to taxi out onto the runway. The white colour of the aircraft lined up on the runway reflected the sun rays into my eyes. That was one of our moves. Attack with the sun behind you to blind your enemies. It was pointless having white painted aircraft when the mission was going to take place at night. You would stick out like a sore hoof. But it was policy. All Wildcats call signs. You are cleared to take off. Over. Roger that, Tower. Out. Dash was the leader of our squadron, as directed by Celestia herself. Taxiing over, it was time to fly. I eventually caught up with Ruby Flight just above Ponyville. To make my presence known, I shot past the lead plane with full throttle. This is Wildcat 3 calling Ruby Flight. Over. Wildcat 3, this is Ruby 1-1. Over. I could sense the tension in his voice. A conscripted. I knew it. Raise your altitude to 4,000 meters and then form up on me. Over. Yes, sir. At once, sir. Over. 2 hours later, we could see the explosions from the naval bombardment through the cloud. The clouds were being lit up by the explosions. When the shell hit the ground or target, a shockwave of magic is instantly produced. The magic saves all ponies within the blast radius by transporting them to a safe zone miles away from the combat zone, usually a prison camp. Then the explosives destroy anything in their path. This concept was also used in our aircraft missiles. There were 2 types of munition, non-magical known as hard and magical known as soft. We also had a 20mm M61A1 Vulcan cannon and a 20mm M61A2 magic cannon, used to disable targets with magic. It was always easier using the Vulcan to shoot targets. Targets such as tanks and aircrafts had protective barriers against magic ordnance. All of this technology to create a new war with no fatalities, and we never failed. I was now bored. Sure, I was flying, but it was in a holding pattern and at a very slow speed and at high altitude. Ruby Flight and I were waiting around for orders from the top. My radio cracked into life. Wildcat 3, this is Wildcat 1. With Garnet Flight coming up on your starboard side. Over. Wildcat 3. Roger that. Dash's F-18 pulled up alongside me. She looked over. I could barely recognise her. Her flight helmet covered her face and mane. The only thing that gave her away was the dark red eyes. Well, this is exciting, I said with as much sarcasm as I could. Don't get your mane in a tangle, Whirl. I'm sure there's going to be some action soon. Barely a second later, the voice of General Skyswim came over the radio. Skyswim to Wildcat 1 and 3. We have a target for you. Ground forces are taking stuns from artillery battery located in Red Square. Location is 3972 by 51066. Get there ASAP. Over. This is Wildcat 1. Understood, sir. We're WhiskeyMike to the target. Out. Hey, Will. High speed. Low drag, I replied. We put our aircraft burners on. The acceleration was unbelievable. We would be there in no time. Ruby and Garnet Flight were in A-10s, slow and unmemorable aircraft. not good in a dogfight. That's why me and Dashi were there to support them. When we were a mile from the target, Ruby and Garnet Flight descended below the cloud cover to start their attack run. Dashi and I would stay above the cloud until Ruby and Garnet called for assistance. I wouldn't want to be doing what they're doing, I said over Dashi's radio. Are you kidding? It'd be so awesome! Dropping bombs, dodging bullets, getting into the thick of it. Go and join them then. I'm tempted, I'll give you that. Remember that time over Lamar when you were caught in the bombing run of B-52s flying overhead? I nearly died laughing. It's been a while. I'll call my flight. Ruby Flight, this is Wildcat 3. Sit rep over. No response. I tried again and still nothing. Suddenly, Dash's aircraft went into steep drive. Rainbow, what the fuck are you doing? Getting in the thick of it. Are you coming or what? But Dash! I had no choice but to follow. If I was not on her wing and she flew into trouble, she could get shot down, and it would be all my fault. I pitched the nose of the aircraft down and went after her. The anti-aircraft fire was unbelievable. The artillery was set up in the middle of the city, converted into a fortress by the locals. All the tall concrete skyscrapers had SAM sights and AA guns on the rooftops. Rainbow caught the attention of the AA guns, and she was flying too high. That was the same mistake that Ruby Flight made. Looking down at the streets of the city, I could see the wrecks of A-10s. One was even buried in the side of a building. Dash was at roof level, darting left and right to avoid the AA guns. I was 1,000 feet above her. The night sky was lit up by the AA fire, and the fires caused by the shelling. Dash was taking out AA and SAM sites with her missiles. If she kept doing that, she would run out of ordnance soon. My radar bleeped. 4 enemy MiG-27s were below me and giving chase to Rainbow Dash. I rolled my aircraft and descended to their level and engaged. I locked onto the aircraft and fired. The missile whizzed past the lead aircraft wingman and buried itself into the tail of the leader. The wingmen scattered, 2 going left and 2 going right. I flew to the 2 going to the right. I aimed and fired my cannon. The wing of one of the aircrafts was shot clean off and hit his wingman. 2 birds with 1 stone, I said to myself. I caught up with Rainbow Dash, and she had lowered her altitude to street level. I pulled up alongside her and looked at her undercarriage. She was out of missiles. Dash, come on now, you've had your fun. No, I'm not done yet. Some artillery guns are still active. Look! She pointed with her hoof straight ahead. I could see artillery guns in the distance firing on the invasion beaches to our left, about a click away. Dash pulled away. Dash, you've got no missiles! What are you doing? I've still got my cannon, haven't I? Rainbow, they're only to be used against aircrafts. You will kill ponies if you use your guns. I don't care! Dash put her afterburners on and shot off into the inferno of fire, twisted metal and concrete. I had to stop her. I put on my afterburners on, armed my missiles and gave chase. I would not let Dashi go down in history as the pony that unleashed hell on the world forever by breaking the First Order. Dash was in my crosshair. The tone of the missile lock-on was screaming in my ears. This is your final warning, Dash. Break off from your attack. Run, or I'll be forced to shoot you down. You wouldn't. The artillery battery was now in sight, and Dash was not going to break away. I had no choice. I pulled the trigger, and a missile shot forward. It dug itself into Dash's plane wing. The wing broke off and flew towards me. I pulled up in time to see the wing go under me and Dash's plane bury itself into the ground. I let out a scream for my friend. Instead of stopping the order from being broken, did I break it? I looked around and I saw her floating to earth, her parachute fully deployed. She was looking at me, but not with an expression of sorrow, as I anticipated, but one of anger. I looked away and contacted base. Base, this is Wildcat 3. I had to instigate Protocol 6 on Wildcat 1. She went down at coordinates 15090433. Over. Wildcat 1, this is Skyswim. Good work. We have scrambled SAR assets to retrieve her. Head back to base and prepare for a lot of paperwork. Over. Roger that, base. Out. I turned my aircraft around and took out the remaining artillery guns with the last of my soft missiles, and then headed towards Equestria. The invasion was a success. Protocol 6 was created to prevent the First Order from being broken. It allowed a pony to fire on a friendly aircraft, pony, tank, or anything else if they were going to break the order. Under Protocol 6, I was protected from accusation of treason, if evidence could be found to support my innocence. The built-in gun cam recorded the whole event and was saved in the black box. I was in the clear, but I still had to face Dashi when I got back to the base, which was the part I was dreading the most.